So welcome folks. For those who don't know me, I'm Nobby, the Mayor of Invercargill. Really important today and tomorrow that we focus on our economic development in Southland. So we've got some movers and shakers in the room as you move around. From my end, I've only got 2 years and 4.5 months left in politics. So those who don't want to run fast with me on this journey just need to be gone, because we need to do some things and do them very, very quickly. So just a bit of an update for those who don't know. We've got a significant amount of economic development already happening. So that's really the demand end of the equation when we talk about supply and demand. But we have some things missing that will allow us to fulfil those dreams. So what we've got at the moment is we've got quite a bit of energy, renewable energy going on. Obviously, we've all heard about hydrogen. And for those that are in the room from the generation area, we don't want TY or green hydrogen. We want TY and green hydrogen. We have data banks knocking at our doors, oat milk factories for those that are in SDC, and a massive uptake in aquaculture. So that's really important to know that we've got paua, whitebait, seaweed, 3 salmon farms potentially, a hatchery, and for those that like a bit of a tipple, we've also got a gin distillery coming as well. So just to give you an idea of the scale of some of the things that we're dealing with, the whitebait factory, which has already started in Bluff, down in the old freezing works down there, has the potential for 80 tonnes of whitebait. And put that into scale, that's about a third, more than a third of what gets taken out of the rivers at the moment, which is about 150 tonnes. So it's significant. On the issue of seaweed, we have some seaweed development going on down there, which will be given to cows as stock feed. And the upside of that is it reduces the methane that those cows produce by about 85%. So when you think about decarbonisation and the climate change, it's huge as well. And internationally, it's huge for us as well. So need to acknowledge a couple of players that have got us to the point that we're at the moment. Certainly, Murahika Regeneration, and Terry's standing here, he'll talk to that shortly, has had a significant push in this. The beauty is that iwi can open doors that I can't get through. So I can't get to Megan and probably can't get to any of her staff, but Terry can pick up the phone as Tiffany can, and they're here 5 minutes later. So that, for me, that drives out of the Settlement Act in 1998, and that's an important thing for anybody coming into the economic development field within Invercargill to know those doors can be opened very quickly. And also a major player in the economic development field has been Great South. I see Ian and Shami are here today. And they've quietly worked away on many of the projects that I've already talked about there. So what we're looking for in the next couple of days is not to have a talk fest and come back 2 years from now and have another talk fest with some lovely food. We want people to be enablers to make these things happen. And appreciate that in the last couple of days, the government's made a very strong commitment to hydrogen development, and that's important because it kickstarts a lot of the stuff that we want to do. So what are we missing in Southland that we need to have to make this development come forward? Well, obviously renewable energy is a key thing, but it's not just the supply of energy, it's the security of it, because major players are not going to come here unless they can secure the energy source going forward. So just to reinforce again, we want TY and green hydrogen, not one at the expense of the other. We need to do some work in the housing space, so that will involve, again, Murahika Regeneration and central government and local government, making sure that we've got more housing, because when these big players come into town, they'll gobble up rental properties, and you don't need to look too far to the North Island to know what happens when the social end of our society ends up without housing. We need water security, which is a big thing for us. Contrary to common belief, we've had droughts for the last 2 years. We don't want to tell people in Auckland that because it's quite happy for them to stay in Auckland. But we've had droughts, and the other strategic risk we've only got one water supply, which is the major river. And so we're in the process, council's in the process of doing bores to find an alternative water supply, because without that security, again, we're at risk. And the last thing is that we need workforce development. The model for us is we need our education system running right through schools and through SIT, and I won't start on SIT because that's a very controversial subject for Southland. But But certainly we need the workforce locally to be developed, because if we don't do that, what happens is that the major players, as they come into town, bring their specialists with them, and when they're finished, they take them away. So we want to make sure that we've got that development in place, and a challenge for some of those that are in this space that are coming in from out of town, the big players, who want to have a social licence. They've asked me, you know, what do we do to embed into Southland? Well, from my perspective, and only my perspective, they need to do the educational development of iwi. It saddens me that when I pick up stats that say somewhere between 20 and 30% of iwi youth is currently unemployed, that's a damning indictment on our system. So the big players come in, need to create opportunities for iwi to get into business and as partners as well. And Mike, who organised this, he's sitting around here somewhere, done a sterling job, and I noticed that on the agenda for the next 2 days he hasn't mentioned the dirty word of nuclear power. And so probably that's a day topic in itself. And just finally, for those government officials that are in the room, you've always got to have stats. So I've got one that might make you ponder in the next hour or two. When Tiffany was a young man, we had roughly 17 sheep for every human in the country. It's now 1 to 5, and you might ask yourself why that is. So welcome to the city. I hope you enjoy the next couple of days. And as we have topics, you'll notice that the topics are very clustered together. People get to speak for very short periods of time, just to whet the appetite, and then we have breakout rooms that you can connect with people, the movers and shakers and what I call the enablers. So I hope we do a lot of that, and I certainly don't want to be here 2 years from now having the same talk. So welcome. Oh, I should have mentioned that Terry behind me is now going to do a brief introduction. I had the pleasure yesterday of speaking after Hannah, who is Tiffany's daughter, at an education workshop yesterday. Never again would I speak after her. She just drew the crowd so much in that when I got up, nobody was listening.
Morena koutou. Look, it's overwhelming for all the people here in the room, which I've personally networked with most of you over the last 2 years, and now we're actually getting to the start of our evolution in Southland. So, on behalf of Murihiku Upoko, Ta Tipini O'Regan and Michael Skerritt, I'd like to welcome and thank you all for coming here today and for supporting the Murihiku Regeneration Energy and Innovation Wainanga that will be running over the next 2 days. I would like to mention the strong support, collaboration from Nobby Clark, the Mayor of Invercargill, who has agreed to co-host this significant event for the region. I would also like to acknowledge the attendance of the Honourable Megan Woods, attending in her capacity as Minister of Energy, Resource, Housing and Just Transition, local members of Parliament, the representative for the German ambassador, international presenters, Contact and Meridian Energy, Woodside New Energy, Mitsui and Co, Fonterra, and all other presenters, representatives from local bodies, government, chief executives and Crown officials, member of local businesses, fraternity, social services, community sectors, members of Te Rūnanga Ngāi Tahu, representing our tribal membership both here in Murihiku and also across the globe, including those joining us on our live streaming. I would like to acknowledge the next generation of Murihiku hapu leaders and contributors from various hapu in attendance who will be looking to connect and contribute in the opportunity discussed during the next 2 days. Murihiku Regeneration was established in 2020 by the Murihiku Upoko through Hokanui Runanga to respond to the challenges and opportunities from the potential closure of Tiwai smelter. It is a regional development construct that looks to support community, whānau, papu for Pacific people and iwi, all with a regional focus that operates in the national interest. Working in partnership collegially and collectively, but focused on policy setting and turning strategy into action. It's something we view very seriously. Our November 2021 Wainanga focused on clearly announcing our intent to look at intergenerational and regenerative projects that supported our vision with a focus on green energy, education and training, innovation and the environment. All this commitment and energy resulted with the government's support in moving Southland closer to a renewable energy industry which diversifies the economy and increases the region's resilience. Thank you, Minister Woods, for your support. We have been looking to support regional development through the energy transition, responding to climate change, and identifying projects that will support development through the lens of our 4 PO, which are social, cultural, economic, and environment. We have developed strong connections both at a national and regional level, and now want to encourage regional agencies and communities to work together against the agreed priorities and plans so we can respond to the challenges in front of us and to realise the opportunities that could be developed. A lot of people will think this event is just about green hydrogen. It isn't. It's about standing up, activating our community, and providing opportunities that everyone in our region can access. Treasury is warning that there could be significantly 150,000 job losses in the New Zealand communities over the next 18 months, and our intention is to help insulate this effect by developing a strong coalition of the willing from international, industrial, commercial, local and regional participation. What we're focusing on is preventing this from happening within our own communities. This tells you the why and what we do not want Southland and the central Otago Lakes regions to further experience. Look at the demise of communities today, for example, Bluff, Central, Eastern and Western Southland, social deprivation, poor housing and limited employment opportunities, all from industry closures. We need to all be together front-footing this prediction. My final point is around the energy transition. Tiwai Smelter, Rio Tinto and NZAS have made a significant progress on remediation and strengthening community connection. Ngāi Tahu supports the ongoing operation of Tiwai Smelter and hopes we can all have certainty on that in the near future. Equally, we also want to encourage new industries into the region around green hydrogen and ammonia, marine and land-based aquaculture, dried, chilled, frozen and freeze-dry initiatives, as we have enormous resources for both domestic and international markets. Discussions have begun with international shipping lines, ports of Tauranga and Waikato Tainui from their experiences developing an inland port close to rail siding. Hopefully in the next 5 to 10 years this will be a reality and we can expand on the already established inland port currently in Invercargill, which we suspect will not be big enough. We welcome the Southern Green Hydrogen Project Partnership head of this event. We will also need more renewable energy in this region to support development. New Zealand requires, this is an important point, New Zealand requires 13 gigawatt by 2050. This is something we will be highlighting over the next 2 days. Rod Jury later this afternoon will discuss electrification options, offshore investment and an opportunity for a Murihiku owner transmission and power network. Jason Franklin, CEO of PowerNet, will also briefly touch upon future power initiatives. Arehe Bennett, Ngāi Tahu CEO, Mike Poyuel, Ngāi Tahu Holdings Chairman, will talk about the benefits of partnerships and collaboration with iwi. Thank you for your support, Arehe and Mike. I also want to acknowledge, this is the most important, the ministerial CEO group, who I meet with quarterly. Debbie Power, MSD, Vicky Robertson, who's left MFE, Caroline Tremaine, MB, David Samuel, David Ormsby, TPK, Secretary of Education, Iona Holstead, Arehe Bennett, Ngāi Tahu CEO, and Dean Ford, MB. Without all your support, trust and confidence in Murihiku regeneration, this project would not have been what it is today. And a big thanks to Tash, our Secretariat, who's made this happen at the CEO's group. Tā Tipini, Michael Skerritt and David Stock, I want to personally thank you for your support and wise counsel from time to time. And that ends. Did I do all right, Megan? Cool. Thank you.